All right, in this video, I'm going to show you how to take an orthographic projection like this and turn it into an isometric sketch, which, sort of starting to look at this orthographic projection at first, it can be a little bit daunting and trying to visualize exactly what's going on here in a three-dimensional view. The best thing to do is to just start by breaking it down into pieces and remember what these views represent. Remember that the front view is always this one at the bottom left. The top view is always above it, and to the right is always the right side view. So there's some things we want to look at in here. I mean, your instinct might be to just start sketching out this front shape here, but that would not really be the right way to start this off, because remember, you have this object line in here, which means there's something going on affecting this front face shape of this object. And if I look at my top-down view, I can obviously see this cutout here, which is represented by this dash line, which is a hidden line. I also have a hidden line on my top view, which represents this channel. It looks like it goes all the way through the object. And then if I go to my side view here, you'll notice I have this little shelf, and this line here is the same as this one. So this front part here is actually set back, or sorry, this back part here is actually set back by this length. So really, I'm not a huge fan of the glass box, but the glass box is a useful tool in this case here for helping me to set up what my object's going to look like. So they didn't give me any dimensions in here, so I can kind of choose what I want to use for my own. And it's a sketch, so it doesn't have to be exact. We're going to kind of come up with a convention. So I'm going to take one of these side lengths here, and I'm just going to call this length 1 and use it kind of as my frame of reference. And so this looks like it's about even here, so let's call this 1. And then this length here is about twice these lengths, so let's call that 2. And if I write my numbers a little weird, it's because I'm doing this sideways. So this total length from here to here is 4. Yep, told you I'd make them silly numbers. This side length here is 4. All right, using that same convention here, this is longer than this one. So let's make this total length here about a 3, which means this is about 1.5. And this is about 1.5. And yes, there is no answer to it. You got to kind of make it up on your own what these lengths are. Just make sure they're in proportion to each other. If you really wanted to, you could get a ruler out and measure them. I wouldn't go too worried about being exact on it. I mean, like I said, this side length there, you look at the centimeter side of it, it's about 3.5 centimeters here. This length here is about 4. So again, that's pretty darn close to the convention that I've used. So I've got I got my width and my height. What I need now is depth, which is going to be this length here on the front view. And again, I can kind of eyeball it. I'm going to call it 3, and it's about 3.5, which is the same as this length here. So let's just call it 3. This makes my sketching a little easier. So now I know my glass box is 4 by 3 by 3. So now I can take that information and let's go to some isometric paper. And remember, I want to make sure that I've got enough room so that I don't run off the top of my paper in here. So this front view, remember, is 4 long. And so my front view in isometric is going to be running this way. So I need enough room to go 4. So let's use dots for now. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going up 3 for my height. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That right there outlines the glass box of my front face. Before I draw any lines in here, let's go ahead and add depth to it. So depth is going to be 3. 1, 2, 3 here. From here to here. From here to here, it's 1, 2, 3. And from here to here, 1, 2, 3. Let's go ahead and draw that in really lightly. Again, this is glass box. This is not actually the shape of our object, so I'm not going to draw this very dark. I just want to be able to see it to give me some frame of reference. So go ahead and take the time to do this. Pause the video if you need to catch up with me. When you got your glass box done, come on back up. Just remember when we're drawing construction lines, and that's what a glass box is a construction line. It's really important to do this lightly. Now, I like to use a ruler when I'm drawing my lines just because my hands aren't as steady as they used to be. You don't have to use a ruler for this. In fact, you're really not supposed to because it's sketching. But if I don't use a ruler, it's going to look like a big mess. And so I'll show you a trick that I use when I'm using my sketching. So this is the glass box in here. My object here is going to fit inside this box. Again, I've got a 4 for the front face, and I've got 3 for the height, and I've got 3 for the depth, which is shown here. Don't forget that this is also the depth here because of our 45 rule. Remember the 45 line comes out and down, comes out and down. And so this is the same as this, which is represented by this depth here. Okay, so now I can look at this front face, and I know from my side view here that this front bit only goes back halfway. And it looks like from this that these go all the way to the edge. And from my top-down view, it does. Looks like this goes all the way to the edge here. So I can draw this front side line here and here. We're going to go right here and right here. Then I'm going up. And this looks like it's about a half a square. So I'm going to go up. This represents a full one, so I'm going to go up about half here to here. And again, that's because this is my front face view, and I can see this object line going on the outside. And from my side view, this thing goes all the way flush, so I know that this part is flush. So to connect those dots, remember, always throw some dots down and then just connect the dots with a ruler. So I've got that line now. And use these lines that they give you on the orthographic projection paper, isometric paper, I'm sorry. This isometric paper is really useful. I'm just making sure that my ruler is parallel to this line. And you can see I got a little fatter on this side and thinner over here, so I need to adjust just a little bit because I really want it to be parallel. There, now I'm pretty much parallel. So my dots may have been off a bit, but my ruler isn't. So I'm going to go fill that in to that front face there, something like that. It probably needed to go a little higher. I'm not quite happy with where that is. Let's go up a little higher there. We can go ahead and erase that. Go back over that line. And I'll fix this when I shade any mistakes that I make at this point. Okay, so now the next thing, I want to see what's going on here. This is the front face. What have I got going on depth-wise? And it looks like this thing shoots back about 1.5. Let's call this 1.5. And this is 1.5 also, since the total is 3. So what I need to know, so this part right here is this line. We can see where it shoots back. So it's going to go back 1.5. And it goes up 1.5 first. So I'm going to go up 1.5. And then I go back 1.5. 1.5. So I could draw this line in here. And then it goes back to that point. Do the same thing over here. It goes up 1.5 because this goes up 1.5. And now I'm going back this 1.5 length here. There's some depth here that you can't quite see in this front face. So it's going to go back here 1.5. Happens to just be even with my glass box line there. Okay. Now I have an object line running this whole length. And just looking at this from the top down, I've got nothing else breaking this up. So I can go ahead and connect these 2 points that I just drew. And this one's going to go straight down. Actually, no, there's nothing there. I take that back. So this is the shelf. There is an object line here as well. It's shown because this is the front face of it, and this might make it give you a little more perspective to it now. So now you can see my shelf. This is the front view here, which is this part right here. And then this is the shelf, which I built in here. All right, and my top-down view, I'm seeing this. Just this rectangle is this rectangle right here for my top-down view. Now I need to go back. I need to go back this way. So you see from my side view here, this goes up 1.5. And that's going to take me to the edge of my glass box, at least it better. 1.5 straight up, 1.5 straight up. So I'm going to go vertical, which is parallel to my isometric line. And I'm going to go right up to the edge of my glass box here. And the same thing here. And this front face is shown. This is the top of my box, which is this line right here from my front view. So I'm going to go ahead and put that object line in. And now you can see from my front view is really, my front face view is pretty much done. I've got this rectangle, this here, and I got this rectangle. That's it. My side view, you can start to see my side view take shape here. Here's the part of this L is already in, and I just need to finish off the outside. So let's go ahead and darken that object line in. So turn the construction line into an object line. And the same thing going up here. Now for my top view, my instinct would have been immediately to just close this off. But if I look at my top view, this isn't closed off. There's this little cutout here. So again, we're going to call this is looks like it's the same dimension. So this is 1 and this is 1. And this part here is 2. So I'm going to go over 1. This one's going to come in this way 1. Again, we went up about a half. So this there, follow the isometric line in there. And then just connect those two positions together, those two dots. And now you see my top-down view. I've got that cutout that I wanted. That pretty much is my shape. There's two things that I forgot to do. If you look at a three-dimensional object, if I was looking at this, this cutout in the back, I would see a line going straight down there, and I'd see a line going straight back here. That gives it that dimensionality that you want. Now, you can pause this and move on if you want, but I do want to talk about shading just a little bit. First off, I like to use a regular pencil for shading, and I like to use them, they don't want them too sharp. I actually like a dull pencil for shading. And again, we're going to pick our front face, which is this view, and this, that should be my front. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a nice light touch, and just kind of give it a little back and forth. Just gentle, doesn't matter if I go over this way, because I'm going to shade that in also. Shade this in, just going back and forth. Just a light touch. I can always make it darker. It's really hard to make it lighter. I used my sharp mechanical pencil to draw these border lines, but now that I'm shading, I can actually go back and retrace them over with a little thicker pencil. Just take my time, and this is what gives it that, oh, looks like I did it freehand. This is, I told you I'd cheat. This is my secret. I just trace over my sketching. This part in here is going to be shaded because it's a side view, but it's going to be a little lighter. My side view, now to make things a little lighter, if you want, take your pencil and hold it back a little further and just barely let it rest on the paper, and then just rub it back and forth again. Just a nice sketch. And you can be surprised how much control, especially if you're going parallel to the line. It gets a little harder on the edges. That's why I always kind of adjust my paper so I'm parallel to the line I want to go. You can see how I get this just barely touching the paper. And that's it. You, like I said, you can fast forward this to the end if you want. I'm just sketching, just shading. My front view here is going to be a little darker again. You can see once you start shading it in where it actually starts to look like the object you're trying to do. And then this one right here, don't forget to shade that in. That's part of that side view, like this is. And like I said, now I like to go back over again and trace over my lines when I'm shading. Helps them these corners where they don't match up, where the ruler didn't quite line up right. Using a thicker line covers that up. And it helps to hide some of these these construction lines, which can be, I don't want to erase them, but I don't want them to dominate my view either. So you can see why it was important to draw those construction lines so lightly, because you can see them right here, but they don't take away from my overall sketch. And so that is what object one looks like. This is the same one you guys are working on here. There you go. That's it.